I'm seeing a lot more people kind of address the reality of the situation when it comes to PC emulation of Nintendo games. Whenever you have Mudahar or some Twitter account come out and try and say that, like, oh, like, I emulate all my Nintendo games, you immediately have people coming out and acknowledging that they're pirating them and that's illegal. Okay. The curtain has been pulled back. We've exposed the wizard for the fraud he is, and the con has been exposed, essentially. More and more people, every console generation, it feels like, are becoming more and more aware of just how illegal emulation actually is. And the copes that these people come up with are just insane. Like my favorite being that, like, well, Nintendo uses emulators because it's their brand. When they do it, it's called backwards compatibility, right? Because they have the legal right to re-release these games, have them available on their hardware. It's not the same thing at all. As as opposed to piracy, where you're illegally downloading a game off the internet to play it on some alternative piece of hardware, right? The fact that, like, these people can't wrap their heads around such a simple concept goes to show you just how disingenuous they are when it comes to their claims. This idea that, like, Nintendo games are available on PC, they are not. That they are easily accessible, they are not. That they are legal, they are not. That this is the definitive version to play these games, they are not. You know, like, all of these things have kind of just been, like, escalating over the past, like, decade or so, to the point where, going into the Switch 2 launch season, you know, Nintendo fans are beginning to push back against it more and more and more, to the point where PC gamers are starting to see about their lies being called out. Just recently, just today, I saw a tweet from some guy, complaining about, like, oh, Nintendo fans, every time I talk about piracy, they think I'm talking about them. And yeah, when piracy is openly weaponized against a specific console or brand, Nintendo, yeah, of course the fans aren't going to like that. They're not going to support you when you try and gaslight people into thinking pirating Nintendo games is ethical, right? They're not going to appreciate it when they see you try and gaslight them into thinking that, like, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, like, looks and runs better on a Steam Deck. Like, there are just dozens of examples of just these pirates just using piracy to attack Nintendo games. Like, I remember when Metroid Dread was coming out, that was the big cope from Review Tech USA, and people like him. Is that, like, oh man, it leaked online, and we could play it 2 weeks early, and it's just one of those things where you're just like, that's illegal. So why would I ever care? Like, why would I ever do it? Like, I would rather just play the game on official hardware and support the actual company. And I've been pointing out, this is one of the things I've addressed. One of the things these people do is, like, try and say, like, make a distinction between piracy, downloading games off the internet, and legal emulation, where you just, like, rip the cards. Like, if they were getting a hold of the carts and ripping them, they are not. They're all downloading games off the internet. If they were getting a hold of carts, they would still be supporting Nintendo anyway. All of their best efforts, even their most, like, subversive, like, just, like, the absolute worst case scenario, like, their absolute, like, ideal just kind of setup as to how to skirt the law. Yeah, they're still supporting Nintendo. They can bitch and moan and whine and cry about the hardware all they want. if they're still allegedly supporting the games, they're still supporting Nintendo. And that money is going to get reinvested into new hardware. And I think the Switch 2 is a very good example as to why PC emulation is completely obsolete. Because not only do the games look better, not only do the games run better, not only do they have like all these new features like control schemes, they also have new content. Okay, Kirby and the Forgotten Land is getting a new expansion. Mario Party Jamboree is getting new content. Like when you see like what they've been doing with games like Return to Dreamland Deluxe and Link's Awakening, like you have these older games that are not simply being emulated, they are being expanded on and improved, right? Far beyond the capabilities of what the PC piracy community is capable of doing. Like the cope for the past 10 years is that if you pay $5,000 for a brand new like gaming PC, like you would be able to emulate Nintendo Wii games from a decade ago, but that's not really true. Like you are not getting the ideal version of those games. Like Nintendo is re-releasing old content all the time with new features, with better visuals, higher frame rates and resolution. Right? Like what exactly does emulation offer to the gamer? That amounts to more than what Nintendo does with their re-releases. Like I've been saying this for a long time, but Nintendo Switch Online is cheaper, more affordable, more accessible than piracy. Like again, if you were really concerned about game preservation, you would simply ask for Nintendo to expand the NSO library to the point where it has every game from every Nintendo console on it. But we curiously have not seen these people advocating for that. They do everything they possibly can to just make controversies about game ownership and just pretending that like games could get taken down from there at any time. Like there's all these copes about Nintendo Switch Online and Nintendo hardware and what they've been doing lately, but it does need to be said. It does need to be understood that like they are just copes, and every time a new cope comes out, more and more people start pushing back against it. This isn't the 90s anymore. This isn't the 2000s. Nintendo fans are not going to allow themselves to be gaslit into thinking their hardware is not popular or hardcore enough for the general gamer. It was embarrassing back then, and it's even more embarrassing now. The fact that these PC pirates seriously believe that they can like downplay Nintendo Switch 2 by endorsing piracy goes to show just how out of touch and delusional they actually are.